Welcome to Soul Care, a moment in your week to breathe in a little care for your soul. I invite you to breathe today. I invite you first to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Let's do that again. Breathe in a cleansing breath and feel your body and soul relax and center. I'm actually preaching to myself when I say, stop and breathe deeply in your day. It does you good. I ran across a quote by Mary Oliver that I really like. Listen, are you breathing just a little and calling it a life? I was intrigued by that quote, so I looked up to see what poem it comes from. And the poem is called, Have You Ever Tried to Enter the Long Black Branches? Mary Oliver is this country's best-selling contemporary poet. She grew up in Ohio, where she spent time outdoors as a girl reading and walking and loving nature. She went to Ohio State University and then Vassar College, but she didn't graduate with a degree. Later, she was awarded honorary doctorates from a number of schools, and she received the Pulitzer Prize for poetry. She and her partner of many years lived in Provincetown, Massachusetts, which is on the tip of the Cape of Cape Cod. And it happens to be a place my grandparents had a cottage for many years, so it's a favorite place of mine. She was a poet in residence at many Eastern schools, and she died. Mary Oliver died in January of 2019 at the age of 83. Her poetry speaks to me of a depth of wisdom and of the mysteries of nature and the mysteries of faith. The poem I'd like to read to you today asks questions, and I invite you to contemplate the answers as you hear these lines. It's hard to understand a poem with just one reading, so we'll go back to some of the questions afterwards and look at them a bit, and then you may want to read this poem on your own, which I found easily on the internet. The title is the first line. So I imagine walking by a seashore. So I invite you to go in your mind to a wild terrain beside a beach as I read this poem. Have you ever tried to enter the long black branches by Mary Oliver? Have you ever tried to enter the long black branches of other lives? Try to imagine what the crisp fringes full of honey hanging from the branches of the young locust trees in the early morning feel like? Do you think this world was only an entertainment for you? Never to enter the sea and notice how the water divides with perfect courtesy to let you in. Never to lie down on the grass as though you were the grass. Never to leap to the air as you open your wings over the dark acorn of your life. No wonder we hear in your mournful voice the complaint that something is missing from your life. Who can open the door who does not reach for the latch? Who can travel the miles who does not put one foot in front of the other, all attentive to what presents itself continually? Who will behold the inner chamber who has not observed with admiration, even with rapture, the outer stone? Well, there is time left. Fields everywhere invite you into them. And who will care? Who will chide you if you wander away from wherever you are to look for your soul? Quickly then, get up, put on your coat, leave your desk. To put one's foot into the door of the grass, which is the mystery, which is death as well as life, and not be afraid. To set one's foot in the door of death and be overcome with amazement. To sit down in front of the weeds and imagine God, the 10-fingered, sailing out of his house of straw, nodding this way and that way to the flowers of the present hour, to the song falling out of the mockingbird's pink mouth, to the tippets of the honeysuckle that have opened in the night. To sit down like a weed among weeds and rustle in the wind. Listen, are you breathing just a little and calling it a life? While the soul, after all, is only a window, and the opening of the window no more difficult than the wakening from a little sleep. Only last week I went out among the thorns and said to the wild roses, "Deny me not, but suffer my devotion." Then, all afternoon, I sat among them. Maybe I even heard a curl or two of music, damp and rouge red, hurrying from their stubby buds, from their delicate, watery bodies. For how long will you continue to listen to those dark shouters, caution and prudence? Fall in, fall in. A woman standing in the weeds, a small boat flounders in the deep waves, and what's coming next is coming with its own heave and grace. Meanwhile, once in a while, I have chanced among the quick things upon the immutable. What more could one ask? And I would touch the faces of the daisies, and I would bow down to think about it. That was then, which hasn't ended yet. Now the sun begins to swing down under the peach light. I cross the fields and the dunes. I follow the ocean's edge. I climb, I backtrack, I float, I ramble my way home. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'd like to paraphrase a bit some of the lines as we think about them again. Think about the answers to the questions that this poem poses. Do you ever hear in your mournful voice the complaint that something is missing from your life? We truly could say that many things are missing from our lives today. We're missing visits with loved ones. We're missing going new places and going to old familiar places also. Do you feel like something is missing from your life? How can we open the door if we do not reach for the latch? How can we travel the miles without putting one foot in front of the other? Is Mary Oliver asking us to invest a little in life? What steps do we need to take to be more involved in our living? Just to put one's foot into the door of the grass, which is the mystery, which is death as well as life, and not be afraid. Is this what Mary Oliver says we must do to live fully? Go ahead and not be afraid. Or must we set a foot in the door of death and be overcome with amazement? I think of those who have had a brush with death and then come into their living more fully afterwards. Can we let ourselves be amazed by life, as if we might not have life anymore? And then this wonderful line, listen, are you breathing just a little and calling it a life? Is there more to life? Are you breathing just a little, or are you breathing fully? For me, my faith asks me these questions. Am I breathing just a little and calling it a life? Am I complaining that there is not more to living? What more can we ask than to step into grass and feel it with our bare feet, or walk in the sand, or into the water at the shore's edge? This poem asks, what more could one ask? My mind goes in different directions with this poem. I think, like in all good poetry, there are many layers of meaning. One meaning perhaps is simply live life fully. Go ahead, get up from your desk, Heather. Breathe in the wonder of all of life around you. And then bow down in awe. Is there more? Isn't this enough? So breathe today. Breathe fully and deeply. And look around and get up from your desk. Stay well.